guys, it's Jessica from Peace Out Books, and today I'm here with my favorite series from 2022. This means that I discovered these series or read most of them in 2022. I only have like 12. We know my history with series. I'm really bad at finishing them. Some of these I haven't finished yet, but I am sitting down real quick to film this, so I don't have any physically with me. That huge storm that's coming through, I'm filming this on the 22nd, and my dad texted me this morning. He's like, you probably should come over a day early because Friday's gonna be a mess. So I had originally planned to go over to my parents' house Friday afternoon, but who knows what we're getting snow-wise, ice-wise, so I have to go over there in like an hour. It is Thursday evening, so I'm sitting down real quick to film this, and I'm gonna share the like 12, 13 series that I either started or finished this year that I absolutely love. So the first one is the Vancouver Wolf series by Odette Stone. I feel like I talk about this series all the time. I think I talked about this in the favorite authors I discovered was Odette Stone because I devoured the series. I actually read book 3 first on my trip to Nashville for a book signing and absolutely loved it. I have no idea why I started on book 3, but they are hockey romances, all very different tropes. So book 1 is a forbidden romance where she is a new kind of like manager of the team and she has to deal with the person who's new, and they actually hooked up without knowing that they were working together because he's on the hockey team and her dad like owns the team, and it is great. Book 2 is really sweet, friends to lovers. She is homeless and he helps her out, and probably my favorite of the series, I know it's a fan favorite. Book 3 is Marriage of Convenience with the Russian hockey player, and then book 4 is she is a talent agent and wants to sign him, and he wants to play, I think he was like playing in Europe and really wants to play for the Vancouver Wolves, but what happens is they accidentally get married when they meet because they all got really drunk and got married. So they have to continue working together and keep their marriage a secret. The entire series is amazing. I really love it. Highly recommend checking it out. It's definitely worth the hype. Now, I have not read her mafia romance. I was just talking to my members and patrons on our sprints about Odette Stone. Some of them said they didn't love the mafia one, so I'm hesitant to read that, but I love this series. Then surprisingly, we have the Brutal Birthright series. So I read books 1 and 2 and stopped for a while last year, picked up 3 through 6, so I've read 4 of the 6 this year, so I feel like I can put this on this list and positively say this is definitely a favorite series of mine. There was only one I really didn't like and another one that was like a 3-star read, but all the rest were 4 or 5 stars. I can't even tell you my favorite. Like, I love book 1, I love book 2, Captor Captive, but book 4 is a secret baby trope and reunited, second chance pretty much, year span, obsessed with that trope, and then book 5 is bodyguard cowboy romance, and I'm obsessed with it. And so this one has so many tropes I love too. It's pretty mafia light, so if you're like just getting into mafia romances, I think this is a great series to start with because they're fun, they're fast paced, and there's still that like suspense element to it, but they're not super dark. So highly recommend checking this series out, and definitely read it first out of all the Sophie Lark books because then you can go back and read Ivan and Snow and then the Kingmaker series. So I do think that this is going to have a bit of an overlap with my favorite authors I discovered this year, so that's why this is coming much later, because the next one is the Viking series by Nikki Castle. These are all like interconnected standalone series. A bunch of these, that's what they are because that's like what I really love to read. Only a few of these are actually like you have to read them in order. So these I read because of my friend Tori from Novel Life. She read 5 rounds and then 2 fights and she was obsessed, and so I read them and I fell in love with them as well. These are MMA romances. The first one's my favorite. It is enemies to lovers roommate situation. It is her best friend's roommate. They've hated each other. He's trying to make it big in MMA and they end up falling for each other. So good. Book 2 is a definitely more friends to lovers. It is actually the heroine's sister and her best friend from book 1, and the heroine is in a very abusive, emotionally abusive relationship and finally leaves, and we saw that in book 1 how she was definitely being abused, and then she slowly decides to leave during her book, and then Jax is there to help her out. So it's definitely more of a slow burn romance, very emotional. And the book 3 is just like all spice. Book 3 is super fun. They hooked up and then they want to keep up a physical relationship because neither one of them really is ready for a relationship, and then they fall for each other. So super fun MMA romances. I love Nikki Castle. So excited I read the series. Definitely recommend checking it out. Then I have the Campus Tale series by QB Tyler. I love QB Tyler so much. This series is just short and fun. They are novella length-ish. They're like a little over 200 pages each, I think. They're pretty short. They did get new covers if you're into the discreet covers, and they're all new adult adults who take place in college. So the first one, it is student professor. They met on a dating app. She lied about her age. And then he is her professor when she shows up for class the next day. Book 2 is my favorite. It's dad's best friend slash co-worker. She gets an internship at the law office, I believe, and it's her boss. So it's so, so good. My favorite. Book 3 is very messy, like drama messy. They're best friends and they've always hooked up with each other even when they were dating other people. So lots of cheating in here. They're both dating other people at the beginning when they decide they want to be together, and then he thinks he did something that would make him have to keep on being with the person he was dating, if you get what I mean. So very, very messy, but very fun. It's a very fun, short, quick, new adult series that I really love. Then we have The Edens by Demi Perry. This series is another interconnected sibling romance though, so it's about the Edens. So these are a lot of fun and it's small town. The first one has a little bit of suspense. She's a new chief of police in town and she had hooked up with one of the Edens who their family basically runs the town, and they didn't know that each other like was going to be living in the town of Quincy. So then she shows up for her job and people think she only got it because I think her dad or someone else was the chief of police, so they think she only got it for like her connections. And so someone has died by suicide in this like popular place to do that, and people like brush it off like, oh, it's just another suicide, but in reality she's like, no, I think something's going on here. So they're trying to figure out like if there's actually a murderer, and that's a really fun twist on this book because this one's the only one that really has that kind of suspense element to it. Book 2 is single mom and very grumpy chef at the inn that the family owns, and it's so cute. The single mom is to an infant, like a baby, and she ends up staying on the hero's property. Very emotional, fan favorite of the series, but my favorite is Garden of Flashes is book 3, which is a second chance romance, which I love second chance romances, and the hero and heroine dated when they were in college, and then he broke her heart and married her best friend. Now he's back like 10 years later, ready to win her back, and he's actually also an MMA fighter as well, like the Nikki Castle series, and I just love this. Super, super angsty. This series is great. Then we have the Tattered and Torn series by Catherine Cowles, small town romantic suspense following siblings as well, though book 3 does not follow any of the siblings. It follows the cousin of the heroine in book 1, but a lot of them follow siblings surrounding the event that happened when they were children, when the heroine of book 5 was kidnapped as a child, and so the heroine of book 1 actually helped her get help because it was her father that kidnapped her, and that heroine was kind of like in a cult basically, and her family like didn't believe in like modern medicine or anything organized, so they like didn't trust the government, they didn't trust people in town, they don't trust anybody, they're like doomsdayers basically. And so the heroine saw that her dad had kidnapped this girl and went to the police to help get her saved, and so it's her romance with that girl's brother in the beginning who absolutely hates her, and then all of them are very sweet. The heroes are my absolute favorite in the series. We follow all the siblings and other relatives, and I just love it so much. There are different favorites. Like I love book 3 the best. I know Tori from Novel Life loves book 4, but I know book 5 is also a very big fan favorite as well. So this just has so many gems in it and I could not recommend it enough. Then we have the Necessary Evil series by Olney James. Now I only read the first 2 books in this series, but I am absolutely hooked because these are very short and quick, but they are serial killer romances. So the main heroes, they're all MM, and it's surrounding this family of adopted psychopaths. Like their dad's a doctor and he decides to adopt these children who are psychopaths in order to harness their tendencies for good, where they are giving into their need to kill by killing bad people. And so they're so good. The first one, he had actually murdered the other hero's father, and so he's trying to go after him and find him, and he does, and then they fall for each other. And like the weird thing about these though is that the romances are so sweet. Even though they're about like psychopath serial killers, the romances are adorable. And the second one is with a guy who kind of has like the ability to see the truth about people when he touches them, and so he was kicked out of the FBI because he saw someone else in the FBI was like a murderer and nobody believed him, and so now he's a professor and he touches the other hero and he's like, oh my god, but you're a murderer. But he's like, no, but I think I love you. So they're like really sweet and fun romances, and I really love them, and I'm very excited to continue on the series. Then we have the Clifton Forge series series, which I did a read along with my friends for this year. This one is small town motorcycle kind of romance. It's like very motorcycle light because it is about a disbanded motorcycle club, and it all starts when the father of the hero, who was the president of the MC, ends up being arrested for the murder of this woman that he actually had a connection with in the past. And so the heroine in the first book is an investigative journalist, and she's in town trying to uncover the secrets of the MC, why they disbanded, if they're really disbanded or not. And then we follow multiple characters from there, from the town that we see all throughout the series. And so I really think this is great. You definitely have to read this series in order because there is a mystery all throughout of who had murdered the woman in the beginning, if it was his dad or not, and following that all the way to the last book. I love all these characters. Dabney Perry does a really great job setting the characters up in all the previous books to have a really great book when it's their turn, and I had so many favorites in here, and it was just really, really good. So I recommend checking this out with a little bit of suspense thrown in, a little bit of motorcycle romance thrown in, but really great characters. Then I have the Hades Hangman series by Tilly Cole. I had read book 1 a long time ago and loved it, but never continued the series. Now I've read 3 books in the series, and I am obsessed, especially with book 3, which is Flame and Maddie's story. So this follows a group of women who were all from a horrible cult that would marry off like 12-year-olds to people, and so a lot of them were also very abused and assaulted when they were children by this cult. And so the first one, the heroine actually runs away and finds herself being taken care of by a motorcycle club, and her and Mute, who is the hero, had actually met each other when they were children in the woods, and he'd never been able to find her again, but he's never forgotten her. And so they reconnect there, and then she gets her sisters, and they all have their romances with different motorcycle guys. Maddie and Flames book is the best, but it's definitely the darkest. They are the most damaged, and they heal together, and it is just amazing, and I can't wait to continue on the series. I have so many of the audiobooks because they're always part of Audible sales, and I definitely could not recommend the series enough, but no, they have a lot of dark content. Then we have I think it's called the Kane Series by Shanora Williams. This is another author I put on my favorite authors I discovered this year list because I read the series, absolutely loved it. I will say, like, they went down in rating for each book, so I gave like 5, 4, then 3, so I didn't love it as it went on, but I couldn't stop reading because it was so dramatic. It is a dad's best friend romance, and things got a little bit suspenseful too with someone that was jealous and trying to like hurt the heroine. So she definitely falls for her dad's best friend, and they go on a family vacation together, and Kane brings his girlfriend, but Candy is like, but I like you a lot, and so they cannot stay away from each other. So much chemistry between them, and it follows them and the repercussions of the parents knowing that they're together, and then Kane's ex getting jealous, and it was really good. It was a fun time. Book 1 was the best with the angst and the steam, but then things just got entertaining from there, and I would highly recommend picking this up. Then I have the Plated Prisoner series. This one is a fantasy romance series, and I've only read the first 2, but I am hooked. So the first one I was wary because I've heard a lot of bad things about the series, but it was so good. Like, I could not put this book down. I will say the romance doesn't really come in until the end of book 2, and I'm assuming that's gonna be the hero. Like, I still don't know for sure if that's actually the love interest for the heroine, but lots of secrets are revealed throughout the series, and we have 2 more books left, and I think book 5 might be coming out in 2023, but they're fantasy. Like I said, the heroine is made of gold, and she is like the king's prized possession. She stays in this cage for the king. It opens up on a very steamy scene, and the politics are really interesting, and then the heroine ends up having to go on this trip somewhere, and then crazy things happen, cliffhangers after every book, and definitely very interesting characters. I loved book 1 more than book 2 because book 2 felt more like a bridge book to when we get to like even more action, but we have like ship scenes as well because the heroine ends up having to go on a ship, and there's just like so much adventure in here and nonstop action, and I really enjoyed it. So I'm very excited to continue on. Definitely recommend for very fun fantasy romance that you don't take like super seriously, but you're just reading for a good time. The last one I almost didn't put on here, but I had a fun time reading it. I will admit, it is the Wolf Hotel series by K.A. Tucker, or Nina West, I think was her pen name before she changed back to K.A. Tucker. I did a read along with my friends for this, and I was very wary. So I don't love the hero of the series. I loved books 2 and 3 because of a certain side character that I wanted the heroine to get together with. The hero grew on me, I guess, by the end, but they were just so fun to read. So the heroine is from a very religious family, and she was dating this guy for a long time, and they were supposed to get married, and he was supposed to like become a pastor, like I think her dad was or his dad was, and he cheats on her, and so she freaks out and decides to take a job in Alaska at this hotel and has a wild time there, and the owner of the hotel decides he wants her. So there's a very tumultuous relationship between her and the owner of the hotel, and there are times where she decides to explore things herself, which I really appreciated because the hero was like, you need to be able to discover things about yourself, things that you like, and I don't want to hold you back because you've been so sheltered your whole life. So she has relationships with other people throughout the series, but of course, like, her and the rich guy are the final couple. But I had a lot of fun reading this. I don't think I rated any of them 5 stars, but overall the series as a whole was fun, and I really liked the side characters, and I ended up finishing the series even though I didn't think I wanted to. I did, and I'm glad I did because it was entertaining to read. And those are all my favorite series I read this year. Let me know if you have any favorite series you read. I'm sure I started a million series and didn't finish any of them, but they were still a fun time. So let me know your recs and see if I want to start any in 2023. And let me know what you're excited to read in 2023. I would love to know the series you would love to start as well. As always, thank you so much for watching and have a good day. Bye.